So now let's talk about reading and writing to CSV files. A CSV file is what's called a comma-separated value file. So this is probably the simplest type of data file that you can deal with. If for some reason you do not have access to a database system like SQLite or MariaDB or MySQL, a CSV file is an easy way to be able to store and be able to retrieve data. It's also good for if you're using things like Excel. So if you have a big old spreadsheet and you want Python to be able to parse that, to be able to read it, with Excel you can save to a CSV file, a comma-separated value file, and then from there you can import that into Python so that Python is able to read that and do whatever it is that you need. So a comma-separated value file is simply a data file where your records are on individual lines and then the values in those records are separated by commas, and it's a way for you to very easily be able to store and retrieve data. So here's a basic script to kind of show you how the CSV files work. So basically we're going to be taking user input and we're going to be adding those as a record into a CSV file. We're going to be using a while true loop, so it's going to constantly be asking us for new records. We're going to be adding, and that is going to be written to that CSV file. So we're doing the while true, so we get that continuous loop going on. Name equals input, we're going to ask for the name. Age equals input function, we're going to ask for the age. Size equals input function, and we're going to ask for the size. So now we have the name, age, and the size of this particular person. We're going to use with open. We're going to open a file called class.csv. So this extension is going to be CSV for comma separated value, but it's important to understand this is just a text file. We're using CSV so we know what type of file it is. The mode is going to be A for append, so they're going to keep adding to the end, and then we're going to open it as the name of file, just because that's kind of the default standard. We're then going to do file.write, and we're going to use an F string. So we put in squiggly bracket name, comma, squiggly bracket age, comma, squiggly bracket size, and then we do /n. So basically the /n is, so this is the entire record. So the record for the student is the name, age, and the size. So the /n separates the individual records, that puts it onto new lines, and then the commas separate the values within the record. Right, so if I go here now and I hit the run, right, it's going to ask me for a name. So I'm going to say Bob. It's going to ask me for an age. I'm going to put in 12. It's going to ask me for a size, and I will put in large, right? Now that I did that, I don't know if you can see up here in my workspace, it now says class.csv. It automatically created that for us. So I'm going to click on that. And up here we can see Bob, 12, and large. And see how that's one record on a line. The values are separated by commas. Now I can come back down here again because the script is continuously running. I can say Sue, 21, small, hit enter. And now it's writing to that CSV file. So now Sue, 21, and small. I can do Phil, 8, and medium. And now we see that Phil gets added, and then we can do Pat 21, oops, that all went in one. Anyways, Pat 21, and they're 21, and their size is small too. And then this is one of those things you have to be careful about. We now see Pat 21, comma 21, comma small. But anyways, basically these are the records and then these are the values. So that's all we're talking about with a CSV file. Essentially all we're doing is we're writing to the file. We put in all the different values separated by commas. The overall record is separated by a next line character, and you're able to keep adding to that file. Now let's talk about reading from a CSV file. So basically we're going to open the CSV file that we just created. So with open class.csv, we're going to open it as R for the mode of read only, as file. Now when we're opening these up, this has to be in the working directory. So if you have workspaces open, this will be wherever your workspace is open, or if you don't have this open, this will most likely be the root directory of your user. So basically you have to be pointed to that, so that's one thing to keep in mind. So with open, class.csv, we're going to open as read, as file, and then data is going to equal file.readLines. So what this means is basically every line in that CSV file is going to be turned into a value within a list. So we're not bringing it back as a full string, we're bringing it back as a list. Each line is a different value within that list. We're then going to come down here. We have some things commented out. I'll show you that in a little bit. We're going to come down here since we have a list. So data is a list. For student in data, so for each value in list, record equals student dot split. So basically what this is, so when we have student here, so data is a list, but each line is a string. So you have strings in a list. So the record is a string, but I want the individual values out of that record. So we use what's called the split method, and the split method will basically separate out that string into different values based off of wherever it sees the character that you delineate. So we're going to say basically every place there's a comma, that should be a new value or a new index in that list. So record equals student dot split. What's going to happen is it's going to take the student string, and then wherever it sees a comma, it's going to turn that into a value of a list. So now record is now going to be a list. So then we can do print record, so f string record at index 0, so index 0 would be the name. We're going to do /t for tab, right? That's ASCII character. We're going to do a tab record at index 1, that is going to be the age. Tab record at index 2, and that is going to be the shirt size. So we open this up, we turn every line into a value within a list. We then turn the records that we get back into lists themselves, and they're able to print all of that out. Now if we go and we hit run here, basically this is what we're going to see. Bob 12 large, right? Sue 21 small, Phil 8 medium, and Pat 21, where I made that mistake, 21 small. So we're getting this back. But if you take a look at it, that looks a little weird. So the way it's like, okay, well, and then there's like a space, and then a space. It's like double spaced. So why is that? And that's why we have the commenting here, right? So we take a look at this. So now I'm going to print out data. When this list comes back, I'm going to print out the data. And when we do, what we're going to see up here in this list, Bob 12 large / for next line. Sue 21 small / for next line. Phil 8 medium / for next line. And so basically what's happening here is that there is still a next line after this. So print prints on a line, and then there's an additional next line, and that's what gets us these big spaces here. So we want to clean that up a little bit. And basically how we're able to do that here is we say for student in data. So this is a string. This is a string. So we know that string is going to have a next line in it. So we're going to replace the next line character with nothing. We want to get rid of that next line character. So student equals student dot replace. Anywhere it sees as a /n, it will replace it with nothing. We're then going to split student, so that's the record, and then record 0, tab 1, right? And now if we take a look at this, we can see it looks a lot cleaner now. So Bob 12 large, Sue 21 small, Phil 8 medium, Pat 21 small, and that starts to look a little bit better for you. So that is how you're able to read from a CSV file, and also what's important to be thinking about is how you can try to clean up the values that are coming back so that you can format it for however you need it formatted. So that's the basic idea with CSV files. They are great, especially for small projects when security isn't a large concern and when you're a new person, right? Because you don't need a database server. A database server is its own couple of lessons that you're going to have to figure out. It's additional complication and all that kind of thing. With this, what's nice is basically a CSV file is simply just a text file. You are simply writing to a text file that has a a specific type of formatting. So you don't really have to worry about security and permissions. You don't have to connect to a database server. You don't have to do a lot of that additional stuff. Basically, you can just keep adding to this CSV file and then pull out the information that you care about. Now, to be clear, once you start storing a lot of data, or if you need to start modifying the CSV file, that can be a bit quirky because it is one single file. You can run into some issues there. But for a lot of the smaller projects that you're going to be playing around with, especially when all you want is like user input, put it somewhere and then maybe be able to do a query, something like that off of it, a CSV file is just a good way to give you a place to be able to dump your data so that you can interact with it later. So that's the idea of CSV files. Go play with it. We will use it in some labs and other things. It is a great tool, especially for new people.